The Five Nights at Freddy's franchise is full of great things, but it also has its bad things. In this video, I will be discussing the good things in each FNAF game and also the bad ones. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and without further ado, let's get straight into it. FNAF 1 is the first installment in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, and is one of the best. I feel like this game doesn't have many flaws and is able to carry itself pretty well. FNAF 1 has many amazing parts, but I feel like the best thing FNAF 1 has to offer is mechanics. Every character in this game fulfills a purpose for the gameplay. Bonnie and Chica being your main threats, making you check them at the door. Then we have Foxy and Freddy, which you have to both watch on the cameras. Freddy, especially in this game, has one of the most unique mechanics. I love the way you have to block him using the cameras and how dangerous he is. He kind of feels like the big bad boss you have been preparing your whole journey to face. I also feel like this game has one of the most balanced mechanics out of every FNAF game. Each character in FNAF 1 opposes a threat. It doesn't make it feel like you should really only be worried about one character, which is something some FNAF games can make you feel. I feel like this game is amazing, and it was actually pretty difficult to figure out really what the worst part of FNAF 1 was. But through my research, I think the worst part of FNAF 1 has to be the length of the nights. This game has one of the longest nights out of all of them, where it lasts about 9 minutes, and each hour being a whopping 1 minute and 30 seconds. This can really be felt when you're good at the game and can one-shot this no problem. Even if they changed it from 1 minute and 30 seconds to just 1 minute, I feel like it would drastically change the game from the slugfest it is. 5 a.m. losses hit even harder because it takes around 8 minutes to get back where you were, and at that point, why even try again if you have to wait that long? Just go look up someone beating those nights on YouTube. Although this game is a masterpiece, I feel as if that was improved, it could have been better. FNAF 2 has honestly become one of my least favorite FNAF games. Even with that being said, I still think there are some good parts about the game. One of the better parts of FNAF 2 being the character designs. Although the toy animatronics look kinda bad, I feel like there are some really good ones. All the wizard animatronics look really good, and Mako is one of my favorite character designs. The puppet design is a really good one too. Now, for the worst part of FNAF 2, I could have said a couple things, but I think one part of the game that stands out the most, that being gameplay. More specifically, the music box. The music box mechanic is so bad, and the main reason for this is because it's too high maintenance. You spend so much time winding back up that music box that you barely get a chance to look at the other cameras, which is one of the many things that makes FNAF unique in the first place. FNAF 3 is one of the more disliked games in the franchise. I actually released a video on it, so if you want to, go watch it after, yeah, only if you want to, yeah. But I think it's completely misjudged, and it's pretty underrated. It introduced a lot of lore elements, and it also introduced one of the most iconic characters, Springtrap. Springtrap has to be one of the best designed characters in the FNAF series, and the lore behind him is absolutely haunting. The guy who kills the kids gets trapped inside the suit he killed them with and dies. So poetic, am I right? And his mechanic is really unique and clever, something that the FNAF franchise rarely does, which is to utilize all the cameras. I know, amazing. If I'm being totally honest, the worst part of FNAF 3 has to be the jump scares. I feel like for such an amazing mechanics this game has, the jump scares could have been better, especially Springtrap, because for such a good character, it should have been better. Like, all he does is stare at you and then move towards you. How is that supposed to scare you at all? FNAF 4 is one of my personal favorites and is probably one of the best installments in the franchise. You really just can't sit down and do nothing. You have to be moving and be focused on the game the whole time, and you have to make the right decision at all times or it's just over. Every sound and everything needs to be accounted for, and every move needs to be executed perfectly. It is horrifying but fair and lots of fun. And on night 5, when Fredbear shows up, it gets even harder, having to use the rule from before to the full extent, because if you mess up, you're really just done for. It is easily the most stressful but also the most exciting and adrenaline rushing of the entire series. Now, if I had to pick my least favorite part of the game, it would probably be the underutilization of Nightmare Freddy. In FNAF 1, Freddy is one of your biggest threats and is the star of the show, but in FNAF 4, he just doesn't feel that way. Maybe if you replace Foxy or something like that, it would have made him stand out a bit more, but in FNAF 4, he kinda just feels like a side character rather than the literal face of the franchise. FNAF World is obviously very different from the other games in the franchise, being set in a cartoony world rather than a creepy bedroom or office. One thing I love about this game has to be its charm. I love this game's goofy characters, and I love how the game does everything it can to amplify its experience. In the end, FNAF World is just a charming RPG that doesn't take itself too seriously. So what's not to love? Well, I know what it is. It's battle rate. I feel like in FNAF World, you get into battles way too quickly, which kind of makes the game harder to enjoy, because no one wants to walk like 3 steps only to get in another battle, and the same thing happens over and over again. This game kind of had a split opinion on whether it's good or not, but one thing that we could all agree on is that the Ennard Knight is really cool. I think Ennard is a really cool character and a nice little secret final boss type thing. I love how much of a challenge this knight is, and I think the mechanics are executed very well. It combines a lot of the previous game's mechanics, and I think it's really cool and interesting. The worst part of this game has to be Night 4. The difficulty curve in this game is really bad. The feedback in this game is terrible. When you die in this super hard challenge, it could basically just leave players stuck, wondering how they actually died. This night really made me upset playing it, and I know it made the community mad too. I love Sister Location, but even so, I can't defend how bad this night is. I mean, Scott literally had to patch it because it was too hard. Like, come on. Pizzeria Simulator has a lot of content within it and a bunch of endings to unlock. If I had to pick the best part of this game though, it would have to be the completion ending. Out of all the game's lore elements, this was probably the best and most beautiful out of all of them in the series. The way it all comes together is just fantastic. Despite how big this game is and how many endings there are, this one just stands out to me as the best. If I had to pick one thing about this game I didn't like, it would have to be the character designs. The character designs to me just look really goofy and funny looking. They're not that scary. Another thing I guess you could say is the jump scares, because the jump scares are just like PNGs, so that kind of just adds on to it. The jump scares are kind of lame, but yeah, let's move on to the next one. The best part of Ultimate Custom Night has to be replayability. You have 50 different characters to choose to go against, and you can customize the difficulty. Oh my god. You can customize the difficulty for them and everything, so you definitely have to love this game for that. Now, for the worst part of this game, it has to be the jump scares. The jump scares in this game are just shaky PNGs, and they're really not that great. So yeah, I digress. Wanted is a really cool game and the most immersive of them all. The gameplay has to be the best part, hands down, because you're literally playing FNAF in VR. Like, it's something many people wouldn't have ever predicted, and it's really cool. The lore factor in this game is probably the worst part of it though. The lore in this game is just not interesting and is really dumb, and I think the lore in this game had a big impact on the downfall of the FNAF brand. Although Sister Location may have started it, I feel like this game pushed it to a whole other level. Security Breach is probably the worst game in the FNAF franchise. It's a buggy mess and doesn't really have any redeeming qualities. This was a hard decision because there aren't that many good parts about Security Breach, but Glamrock Freddy as a whole definitely stands out as one of the best parts. His character design isn't really that good, but neither is the other animatronics. I think he makes the experience playable and is a likable character to be a part of your journey. And Freddy finally has a star role in this game, so it definitely gets points for that. The worst part of this game is easily its misguidance. The missions it gives aren't really that direct, and the Pizzaplex is so big that it's really easy to get lost in there. So yeah. That's it for the video, guys. I'm not gonna cover Ruin DLC or Help Wanted 2 because I haven't actually played any of those games, and I feel like it wouldn't be fair for me to talk about them. Hope you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing. We're like kind of like pretty close to like 100 subscribers. I think we're like 20 away. So if you guys did subscribe, it mean a lot to me. And yeah, that was it for me. Bye, guys.